I think my mother did exactly the right thing. I think it's absolutely extraordinary.
The appointment was meant to take less than 5 minutes. A document had been prepared, the royal seal was waiting, and King Charles believed the decision was already his to make. Then Princess Anne entered the room, placed one hand over the unsigned page, and delivered a warning no one expected. Camilla would not become head trustee without a formal vote. In that instant, a private royal appointment became a battle over power, loyalty, and the future of the crown. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles had called a restricted circle into Buckingham Palace, convinced the gathering would end with a signature and applause. The Royal Legacy Trust, a fictional body created to protect royal residences, heirlooms, charitable funds, and ceremonial assets, carried influence beyond a ceremonial title. Whoever led it could shape access, priorities, and decisions reaching into the next reign. That was why the king wanted Camilla confirmed quickly. It was also why Anne refused to let speed become authority. The monarch reached for his fountain pen. Anne moved first. She placed her palm over the final line, not violently, but firmly enough to freeze the room. He looked at her hand, then at his sister. Across the table, Camilla did not speak. The queen consort had entered expecting confirmation. Instead, she watched the appointment collapse before officials prepared to congratulate her. Charles felt the insult immediately. To him, this was not a technical objection. It was a rejection of his judgment inside his own palace. Anne held his gaze and stated that the trustees had to cast a recorded vote before any serving consort could take control. A recorded vote meant every permanent trustee would declare a decision that could not later be denied or quietly rewritten. Then she opened an older governance paper. The clause was clear: no consort could lead the trust without majority approval from its permanent members. Camilla's expression hardened. The room had been arranged as though the appointment were complete, yet William, Edward, Sophie, and the trust's senior legal guardian had never been asked to vote. That omission was not accidental. It had been designed to bypass resistance. Charles ordered everyone except Anne and Camilla to leave. Chairs shifted. Papers closed. William rose slowly, but before the door shut, he noticed a second sealed folder beneath his aunt's arm. Anne did not explain it. She only waited. The blocked signature had stopped Camilla's appointment, but the sealed folder in Anne's hands was about to reveal why she had been willing to defy both her brother and his queen. To Charles, the appointment was an act of devotion. To Camilla, it was proof that she had finally been accepted at the heart of royal power. But to Anne, the trust represented something neither of them had the right to reshape privately. It carried the memory of Elizabeth, Philip, and generations who believed royal property belonged to the institution, not to the emotions of one reign. That difference turned a family disagreement into an irreversible constitutional wound. Charles had studied the appointment letter alone before the meeting. He smoothed the folded edge, read Camilla's name again, and whispered that she had waited long enough. The role of head trustee was not merely ceremonial. A trustee is someone legally responsible for protecting property, money, and valuable assets on behalf of others. Giving her that position would secure influence over royal collections, charitable funds, and decisions that could continue long after his reign ended. The king believed he was protecting his wife from the future. He knew that once William became monarch, household loyalties would shift, old tensions would return, and Camilla's place could become smaller overnight. Weeks earlier, during a private conversation recorded in a confidential household note, Charles had promised that he would place her beyond the reach of future household politics. To him, this appointment was the shield he had promised. Camilla needed that protection more than she admitted. She had lived for years beneath comparison, suspicion, and the memory of another woman. Becoming head trustee would mean she was no longer tolerated only because Charles loved her. It would mean the institution itself had accepted her. That hope made Anne's intervention feel brutally personal. Anne carried a different burden. She saw trusteeship as restraint, not reward. The Princess Royal believed no one should control the family's shared legacy because of marriage, affection, or fear. Yet stopping her brother had wounded her deeply. During a private conversation with Sophie after the meeting, she admitted that Charles might never forgive her. Sophie listened without interruption. The trusted confidant knew how close Anne and the king had become during Elizabeth's final years. They had shared grief, duty, and the pressure of keeping the monarchy steady. Now that bond was cracking over Camilla, and neither sibling knew how far the damage would spread. William's future made the conflict even more dangerous. The trust controlled objects and funds traditionally preserved for the next reign. If Camilla gained authority, she could influence what the prince inherited, when he received it, and which parts of his grandparents' legacy remained within reach. Anne finally told Sophie the truth. Charles had made his promise only after a bitter incident at Windsor, involving Camilla, William, and an inventory belonging to the late Queen. The battle had not begun with a trustee document at Buckingham Palace. It had begun weeks earlier, when one Windsor request crossed a line Anne believed could never be uncrossed. Every royal conflict has a moment that later appears inevitable. This one came inside Windsor Castle, during what should have been a routine review of the late Queen's private collection. Camilla requested that several historically significant pieces be transferred into a new consort-controlled reserve. William objected. Anne asked for the request to be withdrawn. But Charles sided with his wife, and one sentence changed everything. Once Camilla led the trust, no one would be able to challenge such decisions again. 3 weeks before the blocked appointment, Anne joined William, Camilla, and the Royal Collection custodian for an inventory review. An inventory review is a formal examination of valuable objects, records, and ownership details to confirm where each item belongs and who may control it. The group was there to assess jewels, correspondence, ceremonial gifts, and private family objects held by the Royal Legacy Trust. What began as paperwork quickly became a struggle over memory. Camilla asked for several pieces linked to Elizabeth and Queen Alexandra to be moved into a new consort continuity collection under her personal household. The proposed collection would gather objects associated with royal wives and place them under one office. To her, the request offered order and recognition. To William, it looked like history being rearranged before he had the power to stop it. The prince refused the transfer of Elizabeth's sapphire presentation case and Philip's naval archive. He argued that both belonged to the wider royal legacy, not to a separate household controlled by one consort. Camilla heard something deeper in his objection. She believed he was saying that she remained an outsider, unfit to guard the family's most intimate possessions. Charles entered midway through the dispute. He listened briefly, then declared that Camilla would soon lead the trust and could settle the matter herself. The king meant to end the argument. Instead, he gave it a future. Anne closed the inventory ledger and removed her glasses. She told Charles that no appointment could be used to win a family quarrel. He pushed the ledger back toward her without opening it. William said nothing, but the future king felt his grandparents' legacy slipping into a structure he might later struggle to reverse. That evening, Anne contacted the trust's retired legal secretary through a documented telephone conversation and requested every amendment signed during Elizabeth's reign concerning consort authority. She was no longer relying on memory, she wanted proof. Charles learned of the search and moved Camilla's signing forward by 4 days. He also restricted attendance, hoping to complete the appointment before opposition could organize. Sophie warned Anne through a private call. The trusted confidant expected a written objection. Instead, Anne chose confrontation. By the time she entered Buckingham Palace, she was no longer trying to prevent a misunderstanding. She was prepared to stop a royal command in front of the woman it was meant to elevate. The room emptied, but the tension did not. Charles remained at the head of the table. Camilla sat rigidly beside him, and Anne kept her hand over the unsigned appointment. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then the king ordered his sister to move. She refused. What followed was not a debate between monarch and advisor. It was a confrontation between two siblings carrying decades of loyalty, resentment, grief, and very different ideas about what their mother had entrusted to them. Charles watched the final aide leave before turning back to Anne. He demanded to know why she had chosen to humiliate Camilla during an official royal process. A permanent trustee is one of the fixed members responsible for guarding the trust's assets and voting on major decisions. Anne said each of them had to receive the proposal, study the powers being transferred, and cast a recorded vote before the appointment could proceed. The king leaned forward. "Move your hand, Anne." She did not blink. "Call the vote, Charles." Camilla remained silent, but her fingers tightened around the arm of her chair. The queen consort had expected a ceremony of confirmation. Instead, she had become the center of a family trial, forced to watch Charles and Anne turn years of buried tension into open conflict. The monarch accused his sister of hiding hostility behind procedure. He said she was using rules to undermine his marriage and embarrass the woman he had spent years defending. Anne answered without raising her voice. She told him that he was using marriage to bypass the rules, and that devotion did not give him the right to hand one person unchecked authority. Camilla finally spoke. She asked Anne whether she believed she was fundamentally untrustworthy. The Princess Royal paused, and that pause hurt more than an immediate answer. Then she said the issue was not trust alone. It was control without challenge, power without consent, and a role designed to outlast the emotions that created it. Anne opened the sealed folder. Inside lay correspondence from Elizabeth's final years, preserved in a documented archive. The late Queen had warned that trusteeship must never become an extension of a reigning couple's private household. Another page carried a handwritten briefing note from Charles's legal office, stating that appointing a consort without consultation could be challenged internally. Charles read it once, then again. The king removed the appointment page from beneath Anne's hand, folded it once, and placed it inside the red dispatch box, the secure case used to carry official royal papers. He did not sign, but he did not surrender. Charles announced that he would call the vote immediately, and expected every family member to declare where loyalty truly lay. Anne had prevented the signature, but the monarch had transformed her victory into a test of allegiance that could divide the royal family in a single afternoon. A royal vote sounds orderly. This one was anything but. Within an hour, private messages moved through palace corridors. Legal advisors reopened forgotten rules, and family members realized that a single decision could define their relationship with Charles for years. Supporting Camilla might preserve peace with the king. Opposing her could protect the trust, but at a painful personal cost. Behind every vote stood a marriage, an inheritance, a promise, or a fear no official document could record. Charles summoned the permanent voting group: Anne, William, Edward, Sophie, and the trust's independent legal guardian. A legal guardian in this setting was the neutral expert responsible for ensuring that the trust followed its rules rather than the wishes of any one royal. Camilla could attend and defend her appointment, but she could not vote for herself. The position carried real power. The head trustee could set meeting agendas, recommend transfers, influence access to royal archives, and decide which disputes reached the full board. That meant one person could shape what remained protected, what moved between households, and what William might inherit when his reign began. Edward received the summons in his Windsor office and read Charles's message twice. He turned to Sophie and admitted that whichever way he voted, he would disappoint someone he loved. Supporting the king could preserve their family bond. Blocking Camilla could protect rules that Edward believed no monarch should bend for personal comfort. Sophie did not soften the truth. She told Edward that harmony built on silence was not harmony at all. The trusted confidant urged him to demand a complete legal review before granting anyone such lasting authority. Her words steadied him, but they also placed him directly against Charles. William faced a harsher choice. The prince feared that opposing Camilla would lead the king to exclude him from future decisions. Yet supporting her would betray everything he had said during the Windsor inventory dispute. The future king knew this vote was not merely about one appointment. It was about whether his own inheritance could be shaped before he had any power to defend it. Charles worked quickly. He contacted Edward privately and spoke separately with the legal guardian, stressing stability, continuity, and the humiliation Camilla would suffer if the family rejected her. The king called it protection. Anne saw pressure. The numbers began to shift. William agreed to vote against immediate approval, while Sophie persuaded Edward to support postponement until the proposed powers were narrowed. Anne now had enough support to force scrutiny. The legal guardian placed 6 blank voting slips on the table. Camilla looked down and saw only 2 choices beside her name: approve or reject. No ceremonial compromise remained. Then Charles produced a revised proposal. It reduced her visible authority, but Anne found one hidden paragraph giving Camilla control over future trustee nominations. The king appeared to have compromised, yet his sister saw that the same power had simply been moved into quieter language. The revised appointment failed before the first vote was cast. Anne challenged the hidden nomination clause. William supported her, and the legal guardian ruled that the proposal required further review. Camilla had entered the palace expecting elevation. She left without a title, without a vote, and without the certainty that Charles could protect her from opposition. For the first time, The queen understood that proximity to the throne did not guarantee command over the institution surrounding it. The legal guardian suspended the appointment process for 30 days and ordered a full review of the trust's rules, transferred powers, and conflict of interest safeguards. A conflict of interest occurs when personal loyalty could influence an official decision. Charles remained monarch and trustee, but once Anne had entered a formal challenge, he could no longer appoint the head alone. His authority had met a boundary he could not simply command away. Camilla returned to Clarence House carrying the silence of the failed meeting with her. She removed the pearl brooch chosen for the expected announcement and placed it beside a stack of unopened congratulatory letters. Then she asked her private secretary to clear the room. The queen consort had prepared to feel secure. Instead, every letter now seemed to celebrate a victory she had never won. Charles arrived later, still furious. Camilla did not comfort him. She told the king that his rushed strategy had made her appear grasping, entitled, and powerless all at once. He insisted that he had only been trying to secure her future. She answered that protection offered without consent could become another form of humiliation. The monarch directed his anger toward Anne. When his sister called that evening, he refused to speak with her. He sent back a handwritten note stating that the dispute was now institutional, not familial. Yet the words revealed the opposite. Charles was hurt precisely because the challenge had come from someone he trusted as family. The palace began dividing quietly. Staff attached to William, Anne, and Edward handed over documents to the review, while Camilla's office delayed several planning files linked to the proposed consort collection. The withholding deepened suspicion and made the queen look defensive, even as she privately demanded that her aides stop escalating the damage. Reviewers soon uncovered something worse. Engraved stationery and internal announcements naming Camilla as head trustee had been ordered before consultation began. The palace had expected approval to be automatic. William received one discarded proof. He read the words, "Head Trustee, Her Majesty," and slid the page across his desk to Catherine without speaking. She studied it, then told the prince that the family could not survive a prolonged campaign of pressure. Someone had to speak with Camilla without Charles, lawyers, or officials in the room. The legal dispute had reached its limit. The next shift would come from an unguarded conversation between two women who had never fully trusted one another. There were no courtiers, no legal folders, and no king to translate one woman's words to the other. Anne arrived at Clarence House shortly before dusk and asked to speak with Camilla alone. The queen agreed, though she expected another warning. Instead, the Princess Royal offered something more difficult: the truth. She explained why she had blocked the appointment, what she feared would happen under unchecked control, and why stopping Camilla had never meant erasing her place beside Charles. Anne requested 20 minutes and asked that both private secretaries remain outside. A private secretary is a senior aide who manages official duties, correspondence, and access to a royal household. This conversation needed none of that machinery. The Princess Royal wanted no record shaped by staff, and no careful language designed to protect anyone from discomfort. Camilla poured the tea herself. Her hand trembled against the saucer, and she left Anne's cup untouched. The queen consort tried to return to the legal argument, but Anne stopped speaking about clauses and votes. She said the issue was not Camilla's dignity as queen. It was the danger of allowing the trust to become a shield, built around Charles's fear. Camilla finally admitted what that fear had become inside her. She said she worried William's reign would leave her as a tolerated widow, respected in public but powerless in private, with every decision depending on the goodwill of people who had never fully accepted her. The confession came through a private conversation with no aides present, and once spoken, it changed the tone between them. Anne answered with pain of her own. She said protecting the monarchy sometimes required standing against the people she loved most. Opposing Charles had not felt like victory. It had felt like breaking something she might never repair. Then the Princess Royal offered a compromise. Camilla could become ceremonial patron of the trust, a public role representing its work, while an elected chair controlled assets, votes, and appointments. She would keep dignity and presence without holding unchecked authority. Camilla listened, then revealed that she had never asked for every disputed power. Charles's office had expanded the position because the king wanted to make her unassailable. That single word exposed the real struggle. The appointment had been built less from ambition than from fear. The Queen agreed to withdraw from consideration as head trustee if the palace made clear that the decision was hers and not a rejection of her royal status. Anne accepted. For the first time, both women stood on the same side of the dispute, leaving Charles to face a truth neither could soften for him. By morning, the dispute was no longer confined to royal rooms. The announcement that Camilla had withdrawn from the trustee contest triggered headlines, broadcast debates, and crowds outside Buckingham Palace. Some saw Anne as the defender of constitutional restraint. Others saw a queen humiliated by the family she had spent years trying to join. Yet one image captured the national mood more powerfully than any commentator. Two newspapers held side by side at the palace gates, presenting entirely different versions of the same royal rupture. Buckingham Palace released a formal statement saying Camilla had chosen not to seek the head trusteeship and would instead accept the honorary role of royal patron after the governance review. A royal patron is a public representative who supports an institution without controlling its money, property, or internal votes. The wording protected her dignity, but it could not hide the fact that the original appointment had collapsed. The trust responded within hours. Future heads would now serve fixed terms and be elected by secret ballot, a private voting system designed to prevent pressure from the monarch or any royal household. That change mattered because it ended the possibility of Charles, or any future sovereign, placing a spouse or heir in control without collective approval. Outside the palace, one woman raised two front pages toward television cameras. One declared, "Anne stops royal power grab." The other announced, "Camilla forced to step aside." The crowd reacted to both, and the contradiction captured the nation perfectly. Some applauded restraint. Others saw rejection. An evening presenter then called the episode, "The Day Royal Duty Defeated Royal Preference." The phrase spread across radio programs, online debates, and morning commentary. Anne became a symbol of resistance, while Camilla became either a victim of family hostility or the face of an appointment that had gone too far. Charles watched the coverage alone. When footage showed Anne entering Buckingham Palace, the king remained still. But when commentators described his strategy as a failed attempt to protect Camilla, he switched off the television. The public judgment had reached the part of him no constitutional argument could touch. Camilla refused to let that judgment turn her into a victim. She instructed her office not to brief against Anne and rejected a proposed statement suggesting she had been pressured into withdrawing. The queen consort would not win sympathy by deepening the family divide. Reporters still waited for punishment. They searched for signs that Charles had excluded Anne, William, or Edward from royal duties. Instead, the monarch authorized the revised voting rules and ordered the final trustee meeting to include them all. The public battle had ended, but the emotional verdict still belonged to Charles, Anne, and Camilla, inside the room where the conflict first began. 30 days after Anne stopped the appointment, the same trustees returned to the same table. The fountain pen was back. So was the red dispatch box. But the document before Charles no longer named Camilla as head trustee. It established elected leadership, fixed terms, independent oversight, and a ceremonial role for the queen. The battle had changed the rules. More importantly, it had forced three people bound by family and duty to confront what royal power could and could not be used to protect. Charles read the revised charter in silence. A charter is the formal document that defines how an institution must operate and who may exercise authority within it. This one required a secret majority vote for future leaders, full disclosure of personal conflicts, and collective approval before major assets could be transferred. No monarch, spouse, or heir would ever control the trust alone again. The trustees approved the settlement unanimously. Camilla accepted the role of royal patron, allowing her to represent the trust's charitable work without controlling archives, inheritances, appointments, or disputed property. The queen retained dignity and visibility, but the powers that had caused the conflict were removed from her reach. Charles signed the document, set down the pen, and turned toward Anne. The king waited before speaking, as though the words cost more than the signature. "You stopped me because I would not stop myself." Anne did not celebrate. The Princess Royal told him that a monarch sometimes needed protection from decisions made out of fear, even when that protection felt like betrayal. She had opposed her brother not to weaken him, but to stop his private anxiety from becoming permanent royal policy. Charles then faced Camilla. He apologized for trying to secure her dignity through unchecked authority. The monarch admitted that his determination had been driven by fear of what might happen to her after his reign. She answered quietly that becoming untouchable would never have made her accepted. It would only have made every future kindness look forced. Camilla turned to Anne and thanked her for offering a dignified alternative, instead of demanding her complete exclusion. The queen consort did not pretend their relationship had become warm. Anne did not offer false affection. But something harder and more valuable had replaced suspicion: honesty. William gave Charles the assurance he had been waiting to hear. The prince formally promised that Camilla's home, rank, and public dignity would remain protected when the next reign began. Yet he also made clear that institutional authority would continue to follow rules, not family pressure. The outcome was final. Anne kept her trusteeship. Charles accepted the vote. Camilla withdrew from executive control. The trust emerged stronger because no individual, not even the monarch, could dominate it alone. This moment did not prove that Anne was more powerful than Charles, or that Camilla had no place in the monarchy. It proved that love could not become ownership, and loyalty could not demand silence. Anne's refusal protected William's inheritance, restrained Charles's fear, preserved Camilla's dignity, and saved the family from a deeper fracture. The signature that mattered was not the one Anne blocked, but the one Charles finally gave after accepting that the crown survives only when personal devotion yields to shared duty. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.